Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation as part of the Industry Insight webinar series. The topic this time is 4 ways for litigators to manage risk. Today we have 4 speakers. Catherine Sanders Reach is the Director of Law Practice Management and Technology at the Chicago Bar Association. Prior to that, she was the Director of the Legal Technology Resource Center at the American Bar Association, helping lawyers with technology for 15 years. Ben Shore is a Senior Content Developer at Microsoft and the author of 9 books on Microsoft Office for attorneys. He spent 27 years in legal technology. He lives in Linwood, Washington with his wife, Carrie, 2 cats, and their rescue dog, Samson. Zafar Khan is CEO of RPost. RPost has been a leader in secure and certified electronic communications for more than a decade. Khan has been in the technology field for more than 15 years and worked in strategy and finance with Deloitte Consulting and Goldman Sachs. Carolyn Groh is co-owner and VP of Sales at Toolbox, a court rules calendaring program provider and docketing system all-in-one, born in the cloud in the late 90s. Groh has been in legal technology for 15+ years, speaks Japanese, and managed global procurement teams for IBM based out of Tokyo. The Industry Insight webinar series is hosted by the ABA Legal Technology Resource Center. To stay updated on upcoming webinars or view previous videos, visit ambar.org/industryinsight. You can also stay updated on legal technology news through our blog, lawtechnologytoday.org. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll now begin the webinar.
Thanks, everybody, and this is Catherine Reach, and thanks, Rose, for the introduction. Today, we are going to cover a couple of different ways for litigators to manage risk. The first one is something I'll address with Ben Shore, which is protecting privileged information and confidential information by storing it in the cloud. The funny thing is, probably that sounds a little weird to you because I think there's been a lot of trepidation about using the cloud, but there's actually a lot of benefits to using the cloud. So let's look at a checklist of some of the things you need to think about when you're going to the cloud. One of the things that you may or may not be familiar with is the concept of the updated rules to the model rules of professional responsibility that were updated in August 2012, which a lot of states, 23 and counting so far as I know, have adopted. And what this has done is update the comment 8 to Rule 1.1 regarding competence to add specific language that competence requires understanding the benefits and risk of technology. The other rule that's been updated is that law firms need to research cloud products because under 5.3 was responsibilities regarding non-lawyer assistance. The rule used to be non-lawyer assistance ANTS, now it's ANCE, which expands that rule to mean that you have duties to responsibly watch over any non-lawyer assistance, whether that's an e-discovery vendor or a cloud vendor or an outsourced IT vendor, or if you're using a virtual receptionist, whatever. So looking at some of the things you need to be thinking about when you're using cloud is that you're not only dealing with information that's confidential, possibly privileged, but also it's protected by statutes and regulations. So thinking about business continuity, what do you do if you're offline? What do they do if they're offline? There's 21 ethics opinions around the states that give you some guidance on what you should be thinking about using the cloud. The good thing is none of the ethics opinions say don't use the cloud. They all say for you to use a reasonable care standard. And there's no distinction, by the way, so far as I know, in any of the ethics opinions between software as a service, hosted services, private services, or any other cloud architecture. The Pennsylvania Bar has the best description, which is stuff's not on your computer. So if stuff's not on your computer, you need to make sure that it's well protected, that they're using good security precautions. And one thing all these opinions say is if you're not expert enough to make that assessment about the reasonable security precautions, then make sure someone who's qualified is making that assessment. The Law Society of British Columbia has a really great cloud computing checklist you can download and have a questionnaire to go through. If you'll go to the next slide, the other thing is no matter how secure your cloud provider is, you still have a duty to maintain security on your end, which means good computer use policies and training. Make sure that you have a data breach response plan, that you have mobile device policies, that you've revoked as much power from your end users as possible so they can't download things. That's still how people get viruses, is downloading things from an email that they've gotten, but now it's embedded in PDF documents or Word macros or other things. It's not a payload of an attachment in an exe file. We all know to look for that. So they're getting smarter. The nice thing about the cloud is it's going to reduce rogue downloads from your staff. It's also giving you that ability to have a central administrative person who can turn on and off people's access to the data in the cloud. They have very sophisticated security protocols, so that takes some of the burden off of your IT folks. And then they have constantly, by using cloud products, your products are constantly updated and patched, and you don't have to worry about it. There's lots and lots of people using products on their desktops today that they probably haven't updated in a couple of years, and they're at great risk. So the cloud actually helps you mitigate some of those risks.
I was going to add that there is one thing, though, with the cloud, especially even in a browser-only environment, that you do want to make sure is keeping updated, and that's your browser.
Yep.
Browsers have security vulnerabilities, too. So most of the browsers automatically update, but you should check to make sure yours is. I'm sorry, you were asking about Office 365?
Yes.
So Office 365 is our suite of software and services, and it was designed with the enterprise in mind, which is one of the things that I think distinguishes it from some of the other products out there, in that the business model on Office 365 is not ads. We're not scanning your content to show you ads. You're paying for it, and so like all enterprise products, it was designed to be more private and secure than some of the consumer-grade products. Office 365 is HIPAA compliant, and it does also meet a number of other security certifications. There's a long list I won't bore you with here, but if you really want to, if you go on and Google for Office 365 Trust, you'll find our site that lists all of our different security certifications. One of the important things that Office 365 enables, and I encourage all of you to turn this on if you're an Office 365 user or even for any other cloud service, is multi-factor authentication. And that means that your users, when they log in, they're not dependent just on a username and password, which, as we've all seen, can be too easily compromised. It actually requires you to use the username and password, but then also some other factor that you have. So, for example, it can send a text message to your phone, or you can use an authenticator app of some sort or an authenticator device. There are a number of different kinds of multi-factor authentication you can use, but Office 365 does support multi-factor authentication, and I encourage you to enable it if you haven't done that already. Likewise with Twitter and any other cloud service you're using that supports that. We do have automatic geo-redundancy and backups. The geo-redundancy means that your data is stored not in a single data center, but actually in 2 data centers by default. Those data centers are, generally speaking, kept in your home country, although obviously it depends on your country. If you're in Luxembourg, we don't have 2 data centers in Luxembourg. But if you're in the United States, as I suspect most of you are, your data will be stored in multiple servers within a data center, and then replicated to a second data center that is in the United States, but not in the same place as the first data center. So that means if there's some sort of natural disaster, your data is not necessarily going to be affected because we do have it in a second data center. Your documents can be secured and shared with clients, and that means that by default your documents are not shared with anybody, but you can very easily, with either SharePoint or OneDrive for Business, specify that you would like to share those documents either read-only or in a can-edit kind of collaborative mode with people either inside or outside of your firm. And that's all included in Office 365. But we also have built-in version control, which is very important, especially in a collaborative environment. If somebody messes up your document somehow or makes a change that you don't like, it's very easy for you to revert to a previous version with Office 365 because we do have built-in versioning that tracks all the old versions and lets you revert back. And again, as I mentioned at the top, there's no ads, which means we're not scanning or reviewing any of your content. So there's a few questions we get with Office 365 that I thought I'd kind of clear up right off the top. Do you have to be online? There's this misconception that Office 365 is sort of like Google Apps is, where it's a browser-based cloud service, and you have to be connected to use it. And that's not true. And I'm speaking specifically for some of the Office applications like Excel or PowerPoint, Word, Outlook, so forth. And the answer to that is no. If you have one of the SKUs that offer Office 2016, which is our desktop Office, then it's just like the Microsoft Office you've always had, where it's a local installation of Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, and so forth. The data can be stored either locally or on the cloud, although obviously for the purposes of this webinar, we're assuming you're going to use the cloud for at least some of that data. To access your data in the cloud, you do, of course, need to have internet access, but you don't just to run the applications. The other thing that's powerful with Office 365 is our CEO Satya has made the statement that we are cloud first, mobile first, and so now those Office applications are available on almost all of your mobile devices as well. So iPhones, Androids, just about any platform you want. There's Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint available for those, and OneNote available for those platforms, so you can access your data on your mobiles. So these are just some of the features. I'm not going to read them all to you. Obviously, you I'm sure will have access to this deck through the recording later. Version control we talked about. The ability to share calendars in Outlook can help keep you on task and organized, and the shared calendars works best through the cloud. SharePoint's team folders, that's for collaboration. OneNote is a application that law firms are just flocking to right now. And OneNote, by the way, is free. And Skype for Business I wanted to mention, because Skype for Business not only now gives you the ability to do internet messaging and video conferencing, that sort of thing, but you can also use it now as your phone system if you like. We use it here at Microsoft as our phone system. For lawyers, the great benefits, again, works on every device, fully searchable. You can search SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, Outlook, OneNote. You have the ability to search and find any of your content. You can collaborate both internally and externally, and control the access to that collaboration so that you can give people read-only access if they shouldn't be editing a document, and that's surprisingly powerful. We also offer great disaster recovery through our geo-redundancy and the backups. And there are also a number of great Office 365 add-ins. I know Carolyn is going to talk about Law Toolbox here very shortly, but of course we also have our Matter Center, our internally developed document management system, but there are also quite a few other add-ins that are very powerful. And of course, Office 365 syncs with almost every case management system you're using. Not sure we really have a lot of time to talk about OneNote at this point. Hopefully you've all seen it. If not, go to onenote.com and you can download it for free. Lets you collect ideas and research. It syncs to just about every platform you can imagine. And you can integrate with Outlook and the to-do bar in Outlook for task management too. And it is fully searchable. Outlook, you're probably all familiar with Outlook at this point. The newest version of Outlook is Outlook 2016. It does synchronize your calendar and contacts to almost every practice management system. There's some really powerful tools in there for flagging for follow-up tasks and emails and calendar items to help keep you on task so that you don't miss deadlines. I think I've heard, and Catherine can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the biggest causes of disciplinary action other than lack of communication is missing deadlines. And Outlook can give you a really powerful tool to keep you on task as far as making sure that everything gets done when it's supposed to get done. And there are, again, a lot of great add-ins for Outlook, such as Law Toolbox. With that, I think I went slightly over. I'm going to pass to Zafar.
Hi, this is Zafar Khan, CEO of RPost, and what I'm going to talk about is building on the last point about Outlook. Outlook is where most of the lawyers live, and within Outlook there are great add-ins that can help extend the user experience. There's a new platform called the Modern Law Firm platform, which is a integrated instance of Office 365 or any Microsoft Outlook version with Law Toolbox 365 and RMail. And what RMail adds to Microsoft Outlook is the ability to send registered email messages where the sender gets back a registered receipt that provides proof of delivery, content, and time of a particular email. And this is proof of delivery, content, and time regardless of whether the recipient does anything on their end. So the main element, or what we find is most popular among the legal community, is the registered email option. And the reason is it gives you the ability to, instead of clicking the send button right in that Microsoft Outlook user experience, click the send registered button. It gives you a pop-up, and within that pop-up you can track and prove delivery, content, and time. You can choose to additionally encrypt if needed, or obtain the recipient's electronic signature on any attached declaration or document. You can also transfer large files up to gigabyte file sets attached to your Microsoft Outlook email and send other collaboration notes. But importantly for the discussion today, on the next slide, I'll show you what a registered receipt looks like. On the next slide, you can see that the registered receipt is something that comes back to the sender's folder. It's a subfolder of the inbox automatically created. And this registered receipt gives you the ability to record and have a record, court admissible record, of the message body text, the attachments, and the level of delivery and even opening time-stamped, fully authenticatable, and able to reconstruct the original with the audit trail if there's ever a question or need to do that. Now, why is this important? On the next slide, you can see that there are situations where a recipient may deny having received something, or in this case here, and we have a nice case study with this Chicago law firm, they in the past would send certified letters and they'd rely on the green card until one time in court the other party claimed that yes, they received the letter, but the letter was empty. And so from that point onward, they started sending those required notifications as registered email messages right from Microsoft Outlook so that they could have a return receipt that could prove not just whether or not something was delivered under deadline with the timestamp record of delivery, but in fact what was inside the envelope, or what was attached, what was the body text content. So registered email is a very useful tool. There are lots of reasons why this is important, and when lawyers use this to send notices of ex parte applications in litigation, or all the back and forth communications that occur where there might be reason why the sender wants to have the upper hand. And these are all things that now can be included within Microsoft Outlook as a with one extra checkbox. You can click the send button for your casual correspondence, or the send registered for the consequential correspondence. Let me pass it on to the next topic.
Okay, great. Thanks, Apper. We're going to talk about minimizing the risk of missing a litigation deadline. There's two primary things that come up because law firms miss calendar. So one is you need to control the docket to minimize those litigation deadline risk. But the other thing is communications with clients. Basically, with your docket, it's not just Outlook. Outlook doesn't do ticklers very well. You need fail-safes, you need checks and balances, you need shared calendars. And then the other thing is communicating with your clients. When you look at the percentage of malpractice claims that result from procrastination, failure to deadline, or failure to determine a deadline, it's the highest number across all the different malpractice claims at 34%. And this is from the ABA's Standing Commission on Professional Malpractice Claims. And this study comes out the same every time they do it. So a couple of examples. An attorney missed a 90-day deadline because someone forgot that October had 31 days, not 30. another had a paralegal that miscalculated a due date. These are malpractice claims that were won because they screwed up. So how do you keep from doing that? Two things to keep in mind is ways to reduce calendar-related risk. One, talk to a malpractice carrier about what they want you to do. They'll tell you they want you to have 2 calendars, but that's not actually what they mean. They mean they want duplicative information calendared in such a way that nobody can miss a deadline. So 1 calendar everywhere is actually a better thing. So Office 365 is going to help with that, and rules-based calendaring is going to help with that. And then the other thing too, and Carolyn will show how Law Toolbox helps with this, is the biggest disciplinary complaint is lack of communication. So to avoid feelings of neglect, failure to communicate, and fee disputes, let people in on what you're doing, and the calendar is one of the great ways you can do that. So Carolyn?
All righty, thank you, Catherine. So who are we? Law Toolbox is a court rules-based calendaring database that includes rule sets built inside, along with a robust docketing system. We were born in the cloud in the late 90s, and we work with all the major platforms like Office 365, which we'll talk about today. That's our highlight. We also work with the older versions of Outlook, Google, as well as a lot of folks might have heard of us through our integration with Microsoft Matter Center, the document management system where we insert deadlines through SharePoint. Announced at ILTA, which, by the way, we'll be at next week. Excited to see folks there. For anybody attending, we'll be in the Microsoft demo room. We also, in addition to pushing deadlines to calendars, we also push them to various case management solutions. And that's a great way to use Law Toolbox as well. And when we look at why do we exist as a company, firstly, most folks calculate deadlines by hand. Ninth Circuit judge recently published an opinion that the anxiety of recounting deadlines towards a deadline is a nightmare. And we also address the issue of the way most folks add deadlines to calendars are one at a time. And when you ask an attorney where they rely on seeing their deadlines, 70% will say that they rely on seeing them in their Outlook calendar. So that brings us to today's presentation on our latest best integration with Law Toolbox 365. We're super excited. We are bringing matter-based deadlines right inside of Outlook. So earlier when Ben talked about the idea of installed versions versus an application that works both in the cloud and on-premise in Outlook, our solution is installed in Office 365 and works on every device. So, you know, when you look at deadlines, they change all the time. The courts change the rules, and the users change. And Law Toolbox is another set of eyes automating that right inside the Outlook inbox. Just real briefly, 1 calendar everywhere, duplicative calendars, Catherine talked about a minute ago, and that's where Law Toolbox brings a matter-based court calendar for your cases inside Outlook to share internally on folks' Outlook calendars. But importantly, it allows folks to share deadlines externally to Google for a client, a witness on an Outlook account, maybe a co-counsel's Outlook on a Mac, real-time, all in one step, all shared. So without any more ado, I'm going to jump into a quick demo, and we can see what this looks like in Outlook. So what we've done with Law Toolbox 365, which is available in right inside of your Outlook, right over here under File, your IT admin can install Office Law Toolbox 365 right inside of Outlook. So it comes with the product, and you can buy it together. When you purchase Office 365, you just check a box to add Outlook to add Law Toolbox with it. And so we're in the Outlook inbox. This is what it looks like when it's been added. So we've got the James Stern case, and I'm going to open it up, and I see that I have a trial date that's been changed. So instead of popping into a different system, I'm just going to click Calculate Deadline, and I'm going to move my, my trial date to November 30th. And I've already got this case in the system, and let me just pop it back open. And what I have when I'm able to automatically generate deadlines while looking at emails at the same time is that it allows me to not have to pop into another system. And I'm going to go ahead and start typing in my case, West, Inc. v. Brown, and the system recognizes it with the matter 1212, and it's got my case and my venue already picked, and I'm going to go ahead and choose trial date. These are all of the trigger dates that are going to generate deadlines for my matter, and I'm going to go ahead and move forward to November 30th, and when I click next, I have now just instantly generated all of the deadlines for this matter. And all I need to do at this point is click Add to Calendar. And I've got all the deadlines in everybody's calendar ready to go. So here are the deadlines that have just been generated. If I scroll down, you can imagine how long it would take to generate these by hand. Some of these are going to be rolled off of weekends, forward, backward, add 3 days for this and that method of service. This has all been automatically generated. We've got 50 deadlines here. And in order to add them to a calendar, I'm just going to type in the email address for who I would like to send them to. And I'm sending them to Jean Cantoso, and I can add additional folks as well. And I choose the calendar. I choose the time zone, and you notice here that I could be adding it to Google or iCal if I've got folks external. And when I click Add, the system's going to confirm who it's adding the deadlines for, and all of those deadlines are on their way into the calendar now. So that's how, and these deadlines were already in there for a trial date running off of 9/6, so 50 deadlines are all in the process, and you can see them popping in here. Getting moved from the old trial date deadlines and all automatically getting moved to the new deadlines. So if we look at a 30-day view of the calendar, we can see all of the deadlines, including the ones that have just been added here. If I look at a day view of my deadlines, this is what they look like. I can see the due date in the subject line. All right, so we've just recalculated and moved 50 deadlines around the calendar for folks. I can just as easily start calculating new deadlines. So the palm, I won't actually go through the whole process, but the palm tree shade case just commenced, and I want to add it to the system. So when I start typing in palm, I'll notice that that deadline's not in there, or that case isn't in there. So palm tree v. Sunkissed. Right now. And I can add a matter number so that I can pass that back through to the client. I can add that to a particular client name if I want to, or add a case number. And then from here, I'm just going to choose the state and venue. So this is Florida. So we'll go ahead and choose Florida. And I'm going to choose the rule set. And in this case, looks like it's state court. So we'll just choose state court. And so this is how we create a case at the very beginning. So if it's already there, I'm ready to go, and this case is commencing today, and I click Next, and I have just generated my deadlines. I can add them to the calendar just like I did on the last case, but we'll just jump to the next example. There's my dates. I've got 8 of them. All right, so now we've got James asking me to see what are my upcoming deadlines. So I can pull up my Law Toolbox and click on the hamburger in the top right corner. And when I click Get Deadlines, I now have a list of everything coming in across all of the cases. So I've got all my cases, all my deadlines. There's the new ones that we just added. I can click Send Deadlines, and I will receive an email in just one moment that gives me all of my deadlines for the week. 2 more things we'll show, and then we'll wrap it up. We've got in this case, we've got we're looking for an upcoming list of deadlines, or just a deadline chart for a case. So we're going to see different buttons now that I've clicked Draft. I've got now Insert Deadlines or Insert Template. I'm going to insert a deadline chart for the Brown v. Smith case, And I can share deadlines with anybody that I need to in the organization just by choosing the matter. And this is a pretty cool feature. So I go grab the Brown v. Smith case. And let's see if I'm able to find it. It pulls it up. And this is what we call our compose mode feature, where I'm inserting a deadline chart and sending it to the folks that need to see it. And I'll show one other feature where you can insert templates. So if I click reply and now I hit insert templates, we have email templates. So in this case, I'm being reminded to send a depot prep notice. So I'm going to go ahead. I can have my own templates, or I can grab Toolbox templates. The custom templates are coming soon, but the Toolbox templates are available now. So depot prep. So I choose the depot prep, I click insert, and now I have a template with some preparation for a depot coming up that I can send and we can get started on. So just to wrap up, before we move into Q&A, a big opportunity with what we're doing with Microsoft is when law firms purchase Office 365, they can choose to add Toolbox 365 with it, or if you already have Office 365, you can have it added. We're out on the Office store, so if you go to office.com/store, you can find us there. We have a lot of great Microsoft partners that will help us and help you learn about the system and get it added. And we're working together with all of the IT folks that you might already be using today to help you move to the cloud with Microsoft or whatever products you're moving ahead with.